What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. Got a lot to talk about today as Arkansas prepares to take on the Auburn Tigers on Saturday in Auburn, Alabama. Curtis Wilkerson is going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about football with him, but we're going to touch on a lot of the stuff going on with basketball lately. Also, Nathan King from Auburn Undercover is going to join us to talk about the Auburn Tigers. From your number one independent source on the Razorbacks, this is your Arkansas versus Auburn Primer. And before we get started, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Become one of 90,000 Razorback fans to follow the page if you haven't done so. Also available on YouTube. Throw us a like or a thumbs up on both of those platforms. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would love for you to subscribe and also hit the notifications bell so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Also share the content with somebody else if you think might like it. They might like it. Also available on Apple Podcasts. Throw us that 5-star review if you haven't taken a moment to do that. Say something nice about the show. Let others know what they can expect. And of course, share it with somebody if you think they might like it and maybe are unaware with YouTube or unaware of Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. Hog Sports is just $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports.com. Primer time. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, there's a lot to go over. Where do we start? The game starts at 11 a.m. SEC Network from Jordan-Hare Stadium. 87,451 capacity. Auburn Tigers are 3-4 and 1-3 in the SEC. All four losses have come to teams ranked in the top 20. Some of them have been blowouts. Arkansas is 4-3, 1-3 in the SEC. Can't say the same about their losses. Both teams seem healthy. As healthy as they're going to get. Arkansas has lost 6 in a row to these guys, including the 2020 loss, quote-unquote loss. I was actually going back over that game, looking back to see the play as I was kind of preparing for this one, and I came across some of the referee blunders from last year's game, and you're just like, crap. I mean, it's not like a game-ending type of situation, but like the fumble that Jashad Stewart forced, it was ruled not a fumble. A couple of pass interference calls that were just ridiculous, including one that was just like 7 yards out of bounds. There was just a lot of not 7 yards, 7 feet out of bounds still. That's enough. There's just a lot of really questionable calls in that really swung momentum the wrong way. Not as game-changing as the moment that happened last time, but it just always seems like something happens in these games, whether it's Jim Chaney and some of the coaches getting stuck in the elevator. Sam Pittman talked a little bit about that on Wednesday. They were running that fullback wham play. The Auburn defender would just come down, and then suddenly he'd just be met by a fullback, and it just opened up a lane. And it was 21-21. This was 2014. It was 21-21 at halftime. Pittman says they're coming down to make some adjustments and stuff, and Chaney never showed up. It's the first and only time in his coaching career that he's seen a coach get stuck in the elevator, only at Auburn. Of course, we talked about the 2010 game where Jermaine Thomas strips the ball before it crosses the goal line. I'm not saying there's a referee conspiracy. I always point to more incompetence by referees versus conspiracies like a lot of people do. Just incompetence. It's a big difference. I'm not questioning anybody's integrity here. I'm just saying incompetence. I hope Arkansas is motivated by this one, but I felt like, last year they pressed a little bit. Sam Pittman said as much. Arkansas was actually favored in that game. First time in a long time that they've been favored in an SEC game, and just didn't get the job done. Yeah, like I said, Brian Harsin says they're healthy. Arkansas is as healthy as they're going to be. The line on this game is -3.5 to Arkansas. So -3.5. Chris Hummer and Brad Crawford are two of our national guys. They make picks on all the biggest games. They both like Arkansas in this one. Hummer has Arkansas 38-34, so covering, and Crawford has Arkansas 32-26. I'm thinking along the lines of 38-31 or something like that. I don't know, maybe not that high scoring. I don't know, but I think Arkansas is going to win the game. I think Arkansas has got a better team, especially when healthy. I think they've got a better quarterback. I think the one advantage for Auburn is playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium. That's an advantage. Obviously, a lot of crazy things have happened there, but it's a great environment. Like, if you're a fan going to the game, it's a great stadium. I am kind of a stadium geek. I like the symmetry of the stadium. It just feels nice and clean. From that regard. However, I have stated several times my disgust with the Auburn University over the placement of the new press box behind the big screen in the end zone, way up high. It just completely takes you out. I don't understand how you can be a media person and cover the game. So I'm not going to go cover a game in the worst seat in college football, especially how hard it is to get there. After week 8, the bowl predictions I had a good discussion with Rick Schaefer about this because I kind of changed my mind as I was going along. But CBS Sports has Arkansas facing Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl. Would you take that right now? I mean, that's kind of lumped in with a group of other games, similar to the Outback. It's grouped in with a bunch of very similar bowl games. It's in Florida. Being a 9-win team and going to the Gator Bowl out of the SEC is not very uncommon also. So would you take that right now, Gator Bowl versus Notre Dame, considering they're bowl ineligible right now? I don't know if I would or not. It's hard for me to say, yeah, I'll take a loss because I know that if they surge, I feel like, if they lose one, they'd have 8 wins. But if they surge, I feel like they'll be in a better bowl. And it's hard for me to just say, yeah, I'll take a loss right now when I think that they can win all the games left, although that's easier said than done. A lot of things can happen. An injury can happen. The ball doesn't bounce your way. I may use some Houston nuttisms today. Right now in the SEC Power Rankings, they've got Arkansas number 9. This is Brad Crawford again. I think this is really tough, teams 4 through 10. Not that they're interchangeable, but I just think, is there a big distinction between, 11, 10, 9, and 8? 8, 7, 6. Is there a big distinction? It's crazy to see South Carolina that high when Arkansas gave them all they wanted. I would take South Carolina on right now. Difference in schedules. I guess I'll tell you what else I would take right now, OzarksGo. If you don't have OzarksGo, you should really try it out. I have had 3 different internet service providers, not recently, but over time, over fairly recent time, I should say. And OzarksGo has definitely been the best in terms of always having uptime. For me personally, I'm not saying everybody's experience will be that, but I can just tell you my experience. I've never had an internet problem. And that to me is invaluable. Friends come over, hey, what's your password to get on the guest account? I tell them, it works seamlessly. That's what's nice, when things just work the way they're supposed to. I haven't thought about these guys. I haven't unplugged and replugged. If you're interested in OzarksGo, want to find out more, go to OzarksGo.net/Hawg, H-A-W-G, and click the check availability graphic at the top right of the page. On desktop, or the 3 bars if you're on mobile, and you can find out if they're available in your area. Think Northwest Arkansas, think Northeast Oklahoma, think north of the tunnel. Think if you have an Ozarks electric bill, then you can get OzarksGo. So it's a great service. I can't say enough about those guys. Been very pleased with them, and the reason I like them so much is because I don't ever think about them, and they don't jack up your price year 1 to year 2. They offer gigabit, which is 1,000 megabits per second. That's almost instant, and 100 megabits per second, which is fine for most people. So two great speeds you can choose from, and a great price, and local people you talk to. If you want to talk to them on the phone, it's 479-684-4900. I'll put a link in the description on YouTube. But if you talk to them and you call them, you're not going to get shipped off to some call center either. You're going to talk to somebody locally. So that's another good thing about them. Didn't mean to smack. I know that's annoying to listen to. All right. Where should we go? Let's go to Curtis. We'll go to Curtis first, and we'll get it to Nathan in a little bit. For those of you who don't follow Kurt Wilkerson, you should. He has a great show also called Hawg Hoops Live, H-A-W-G Hoops Live, also on YouTube. It's on the same Apple Podcast channel, but it's on a different YouTube channel. And he also streams it live on Facebook. You should check it out. Curtis, how you doing, man?
Trey. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So, when are you headed to Austin? You going tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. You're going to leave bright and early. I got to get down there in time to eat some barbecue,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. So, different kind of barbecue in Texas. So, this game's on television. Everybody be able to watch it and listen to it and whatnot, right?
Wrong. Oh man, that's a hot topic right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's never a good look. When you publicize a game and put out in a release, it's it's going to be on the Longhorn Network. Everybody can watch, and then to just quietly, you start going back and checking schedules, and it's like, oh, I don't see Longhorn Network on Arkansas schedule page anymore. Let me go check Texas. Oh, weird, it's not there either. And here we are. So yeah, they'll have a radio broadcast, I guess, but yeah, no stream unless ESPN Pinto or whatever heads down there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to say his Twitter. ES Pinto, I guess, maybe.
ES Pinto. Yeah, there we go.
So you obviously went to the Rogers State game. I was there. Andrew was there. What are your takeaways from just that first home exhibition? Finally seeing them play somebody else live. I mean, obviously we saw them in Europe, but this is a little bit different.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought it went the way it was supposed to go, and it sounds silly, but that just wasn't the case last year. I mean, it was a year ago to the day that I was sitting in there watching them in a dogfight with East Central Oklahoma College or whoever it was. So it was kind of refreshing to see them, kind of impose their will on another team the way they should. The things that stood out to me are pretty obvious, I think. I mean, this team, they're long, they're athletic, and they're just really, really talented. They just look different than some of these Arkansas teams in the past under Musselman. And that's kind of a scary proposition for opponents when you consider what Arkansas has done the last couple of years. So, I'm just really impressed with guys like Trevin Brazil, just how versatile he is at his size. Anthony Black, man, is a 6'7" point guard. The way he can take off and fly and dunk on guys. But just his ability to just control the game. He's got such a good feel for the game for a freshman. He's a great passer. He just always seems under control and commanding of the offense. So when you talk about, this team's turning it over too much, 16 is too many. Yeah, it is, but it's a new group, 11 new faces. They're getting comfortable with each other. I think they're going to be a really high assist team, and I think they're going to cut those turnovers down quite a bit. So, those are some of the things that impress me.
Did free throw shooting, did that impress you?
The free throw shooting did not impress me. It's interesting. I actually wrote a story about the free throw shooting over the summer because I wondered if it would be a concern. If you look at some of the guys that Muss brought in, whether it's, the freshmen, really outside of Nick Smith and all the transfers outside of Ricky Council, it's a bunch of guys who have a real knack for getting to the free throw line, which is a big deal from Muss. He preaches it. That's how they overcome some of the poor three-point shooting at times. But a lot of these guys don't have a lot of success shooting it from the free throw line. Most of those transfers are under 60% for their career. So you wonder, they're going to get to the free throw line a lot, like 37 times. Man, they need to make more than 20 of them. But Muss does have a track record for bringing guys who may have not been strong free throw shooters at their previous stops. And over the course of the year, really getting them to be pretty solid.
Yeah.
We saw that a lot last year. And even the year before with him. So he's going to have his work cut out for him with this group because I think they put a lot of pressure on the rim. They're so athletic. They're going to draw a lot of fouls. But when you have a field goal percentage that's higher than your free throw percentage, that probably is not a great sign for where you're at from the charity stripe. I think they definitely need to put in a little extra work there for sure.
Curtis Wilkerson joining us. You can follow him at @KurtWilkerson_ on Twitter. He is the HawgSports senior analyst. Does a little bit of everything, including being our main basketball guy. Does a great job covering basketball like nobody else. And you should also go check out his show, Hog Hoops Live, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on the same channel on Apple Podcasts also. Ricky Council. So obviously this team, we're a little concerned about shooting free throws, three-pointers. I don't know if you saw this article by Ricky Council. So last year at Wichita State, when he had a hand in his face from three-point range, he was 9 of 26. It's 34.6%. Not bad. When he was shooting off the dribble, he was 36.8% on his 38 attempts. Not bad. When he was wide open, he made just 3 three-pointers and 14.3% wide open. Isn't that weird? I mean,
that is a wild statistic. I did read that article. I don't even know what to make of that. And it's interesting because when we were talking to Muss the other day about the analytics that they use, and kind of, seeing some improvement from the 3-point line, he directly mentioned Council and said that, with what they've been doing and what they've been logging over the course of the summer and Europe and everything like that, that he's actually shooting much better on catch and shoot opportunities as opposed to when he gives a shot fake and maybe takes one dribble to the left or the right and pulls up, or if he goes to that step back. So it's almost the inverse. So
do you think, Curtis, do you think that has anything to do, because his mechanics are a little funny, aren't they? Don't you think?
His mechanics are funny. It's really interesting when you watch him. That jumper, it's kind of like a knuckleball. It's kind of a weird two-handed shot, not a lot of rotation on it. So when you see him shoot the three like that, you're like, I don't know if this guy's really going to be the answer to help. But he is almost a 34% shooter, from three from his career, which is, quite a bit better than Arkansas shot last year. But I think a telltale sign for guys on, what their potential could be from beyond the arc is how they shoot from the free throw line. He was 85% from the free throw line last year. Really fluid. The rotation looks better. He looks comfortable there. So maybe there's something to be said for, him having his feet set and having a consistent rhythm when he pulls up. I'm going to be anxious to see, because they definitely need three-point shooting. And if he's a guy that can give it to them, they're definitely going to be better for it.
Antoine Bell used to shoot knuckleball three-pointers, if you remember. And he was actually a pretty good three-point shooter.
Yeah. That doesn't matter how pretty it is if it goes in.
Exactly. So you always ask 5 burning questions, 5 keys to victory. We always talk about turnovers, penalties, special teams, injuries play a big role, and then we always pick a 5th. What's your 5th key to victory this week?
Yeah, I feel like I get in a run sometimes with these things of going with third down conversions or the red zone or get off to a fast start. And it just I don't know, it just becomes too routine. But the more I focus on this game, I went with control the controllable. And I did that for a couple reasons. One, as I'm researching this game and trying to get a better feel for Auburn, it's kind of challenging to find some real good information on their football team because everybody's so fixated on what's going on with the coach, different guys leaving every day. There's some distractions there. And, I think it's important for Arkansas to worry about themselves and kind of control what they can control. Trey Knox said it when we were interviewing him the other night. During his time at Arkansas, they just haven't played well against Auburn. Well, that's something that they can control. And on the flip side of that, I heard you talking about some of these officiating blunders. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Some of the things that have happened, in this series and certainly in that stadium. I think Arkansas's got a good enough team where they can get themselves a little bit of a cushion and maybe avoid putting themselves in a situation where it can be taken away from them like it was the last time they were over there. So that's my thought process on this one. I think Arkansas is the better team and the better, state of mind, I guess you will, or better state as a program. So if they handle their own business, I don't know that it necessarily matters what Auburn has going on.
Absolutely. So how do you see the Auburn game playing out? And are they keeping score in Austin? I heard they didn't even keep score for their Houston scrimmage. Is that true?
Well, it's one of those weird secret scrimmage things.
Yeah.
So they close the doors to the media. They don't let fans in. I think they play a half and then do some situational stuff.
Arkansas has done stuff like that, I guess, before.
Yeah. As I understand it, with fans coming in and everything like that, it's supposed to be a full 40-minute game. I think you're going to keep score. They better. If not, I will. So I'll let everybody know the outcome. But, as far as the Auburn game is concerned, I was listening to you and some of the predictions that the other guys had. I might be a little more bold. I don't know. I think with Arkansas getting more healthy in the secondary, combine that with, Auburn struggled a little bit in the passing attack. They've got twice as many interceptions as they do touchdown passes. You worry about guys like Ashford, Tank Bigsby, some of those playmakers, but I think Arkansas might have a little bit of a breakout performance here. I've been considering going with maybe a 10 to 14-point margin for the Razorbacks. I know that's tough to do on the road. I know they've lost 6 in a row, but I feel pretty good about where this team's at coming off the bye. And so I think I'm going to go with the Hogs to roll in this one.
All right, Curtis, you heard it here first. Curtis Wilkerson going with a win by a pretty handy margin. All right, Kurt, appreciate you, man. Good luck traveling to Austin.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right, everybody. That's Kurt Wilkerson again. Check out his Hog Hoops live channel on YouTube. Does a great job there. It's a very similar setup to this one. We're going to go to Nathan now, Nathan King. Nathan King is the beat writer for Auburn Undercover. Does a podcast as well. You can follow him at Nathan King 24/7. Nathan, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, Trey. How are y'all?
We're doing real good over here in Arkansas. Obviously, a big game for both teams. I kind of personally think it's a bigger game for Arkansas, just given where the perception is of Arkansas kind of feeling on the upswing. And Auburn, I don't know. You tell me. It almost feels like we're just kind of biding our time to blow this thing up and start over.
Yep, certainly feels that way. If it feels that way to you, it definitely feels that way over here. You know, one thing I will say is that you asked me about it in our Q&A, and it's something that's been discussed a lot this season. Anytime you have something like this where it seems like writings are on the wall, the question is, well, is the team still playing hard? And up until this point, as of now, we've so far had no reason to question the fight in this team. I think that was pretty evident. They went down 21-0 at Ole Miss and could have easily folded in that game. And look, I wasn't around in that 2012 season when they went 3-9. Obviously, that was Gene Chiswick's last year. But everybody that was said, that those are the kinds of situations where they'd fold it right up and pack it right on in and just let the other team do whatever they wanted. Auburn ended up outscoring Ole Miss 34-27 the rest of the way. Obviously, it wasn't enough to overcome their early struggles.
And a big onside kick that people probably just gloss over. I mean, that was a big turning point in the game.
Huge onside kick because the thing was, Trey, Auburn actually never had the opportunity past the first couple drives of the game. Of course, Auburn never had the opportunity to take a lead in this game. Every time they had the ball, they were either down 7 or more. Obviously, barring a 2-point conversion, but they were never in a position where they were only down a field goal. That was that position. Where they were kind of getting there and all the momentum was swinging back Auburn's way. And you're exactly right. It was a huge call by Lane Kiffin there and an intelligent play call that Brian Harsin admitted, they just weren't ready for it. So, things are pretty bleak. It's been only accentuated this week where 4 players have left the team this week, all obviously, announcing that they have the intent to transfer once that opens up at the beginning of December. That's just sort of how it seems right now. Of course, you look at the end of Auburn's schedule here, and there's no reason they can't win all of their remaining games except for Alabama. Now they'd have to play better than they have all season, but can they beat Arkansas at home on Saturday? Absolutely, they can win this game. Can they beat Texas A&M at home on Saturday? A couple weekends from that? I think so. With the way Texas A&M's playing, then you never know about a team like a Mississippi State, and then they host Western Kentucky, and so. For as bleak as things seem, I do think there's an opportunity for Auburn to maybe salvage a couple wins here down the stretch. But again, they've just played so inconsistently. If it's not one side of the ball, it's the other. They've not been nearly able to put anything together for 4 quarters in a game. And so, against an Arkansas team that looks like it's getting a lot healthier on defense and played really well on offense the last time it was out there, they'll probably need to play a 4-quarter game in order to get a win, even though they're at home.
This is kind of a 2-part question, but can Auburn get out of its own way? I mean, 16 turnovers, that's a lot. That's near the bottom of the country. Their turnover margin's last in the country. And do they have the quarterback to get out of their own way? My opinion on Ashford, he's kind of seemed like just an athlete back there and doesn't always make the best decisions. Can Auburn get out of their own way? Because athletically, they have guys that compete in this conference. Obviously, you look at the recruiting rankings, and there's plenty of players on Auburn's roster that I would say, that guy would be welcome over at Arkansas any day. But can they get out of their own way?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of mind-boggling, the turnover situation. It took until their 4th game of the season against Missouri for them to get a turnover, for them to generate a turnover on defense. Even still, they only have 2 interceptions on the year. They have 3 recovered fumbles. And like you mentioned, the worst turnover margin, the worst per-game turnover margin in all of college football. It starts with those quarterbacks. Robbie Ashford has fumbled the ball 8 times this season. That's the second most in college football. I believe N'Kosi Perry at FAU is the only one who's ahead of him with 9 fumbles on the year. Granted, he's only lost 2 of them, but that just speaks to his inconsistencies. I mean, Robbie Ashford has been a good athlete, like you mentioned, but he's been highly inaccurate, even when you put some blame on the offensive line and you say, all right, let's go look at an adjusted completion percentage, that accounts for throwaways and drops. He's still dead last in the SEC. He's dead last in the SEC in QBR. And so, not many people expected him to be in this position. He was a guy in the offseason that most people thought would be the number 3 quarterback. They thought Zach Calzada would start, thought TJ Finley would probably be the backup. And now here we are with Robbie Ashford pretty well positioned to start the rest of SEC play for Auburn. So can they get out of their own way? I think it's definitely a possibility if you have a smart game plan for Robbie Ashford. But it's all up to him in that regard. He's been a guy that even on plays where the defense doesn't affect him that much, he's still turned the ball over. With those 8 fumbles, he's also thrown 5 interceptions on the year. Auburn's quarterbacks have one of the worst touchdown interception ratios combined between Ashford and Finley in the country. And so, that's, we talk about turnovers every single game, of course, as being a huge factor. But for Auburn, it really does matter a lot here because no one's been worse at it in the entire country than them. And so I think, honestly, if they turn the ball over more than once Saturday, that's if you tell me, we're sitting here on Thursday, Auburn's going to turn the ball over twice, I say no way they win this game. I don't care what else happens. They've just proven that they have no ability to rebound from that. Even against Ole Miss, they ran for 300 yards, and Ashford looked pretty good actually after the first quarter, and that still wasn't enough to overcome 2 early turnovers. So that's got to be their number one piece of importance in this game.
Nathan King joining us again. You can follow him at Nathan King 24/7. He is the Auburn Undercover beat writer and does a lot of great work over there. So, first of all, Bo Nix doesn't seem so bad right now,
Nope.
given the situation. But on the other side of the ball, I ask you this, but so Auburn's given up 204 rushing yards a game. They give up 448 to Ole Miss. 3 rushers over 100 yards. How does that happen with a defense with the talent that Auburn has?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their linebacker situation. I think that's where it starts. Owen Papo is a guy who's come back from injury, and he's been able to have the statistics. He's Auburn's leading tackler, but he has not been a very effective player in space. And then a couple first-time starters in Cam Riley and Wesley Steiner, and neither of them have been very good at run defense as well. This is a thin defensive line, not thin because of how many guys they have, but thin because of how many guys they play. They only play about 5 defensive linemen a game. They've got more than that on the roster, but they just don't play them. And so you're asking guys like Colby Wooden and Marcus Harris to play a really high number of snaps. But, it was funny when I asked Papo about that this week, the first thing he mentioned was setting the edge. He said that when they went back and watched the film over the bye week, that was the number one issue they had. They didn't set the edge properly. That allowed Ole Miss to get around the corners. And then when they were running between the tackles, he said Auburn's coaches charted them with 20 missed tackles in this game. If that is accurate, which you got to go by what the coaches say, that's the most Auburn's had in a game since the 2016 Iron Bowl. Pro Football Focus had them down for 20 missed tackles in that game as well. And then, on top of all that, all the veteran defensive players also talked about gap integrity and saying, we're not being disciplined finishing out plays. There are too many guys looking in other people's gaps, not just worrying about what they're doing. And so it's been an undisciplined defensive front. It's not one that, like you mentioned, it's not one that lacks talent at the moment, but it has lacked consistency. It has lacked discipline. It's lacked strong tackling. I don't think they're getting a lot of support from their safety position as well. Those safeties have not been able to come up and give much support in the run game. And so you saw some of these issues last year. Last year they were pretty good defending the run. But for me, it starts with the linebackers. A crazy statistic combined between those 3 linebackers this year, the only 3 they play, they don't play any more than that. They have half a tackle for loss on the entire season between those 3 guys. Wow. And so that just kind of goes to show, what their inability to get back there on defense. And, it really doesn't bode well for them. Arkansas runs the ball more than anybody other than the service academies. And so, it really doesn't bode well coming off that Ole Miss performance for them to get this kind of matchup in this game. And that's what I just keep coming back to. Arkansas is such a successful running team. And not only their success, they're just going to keep doing it over and over again over the course of the game. And Auburn has not shown this season the ability to stop a team that says, we have talent, we run the ball well, and we're going to try to dictate the game in that regard. Any team that tries to do that, whether it was Penn State in the second half, whether it was Georgia in the second half, whether it was Ole Miss for the entire game, whether it was Missouri ran the ball really well. Auburn has not been able to stop it this season.
Tell me something positive. Something.
Well, you look at I just think this is
Tank Bigsby. Let's talk about Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a guy like Tank Bigsby and what they did against Ole Miss on the ground. Mm-hmm. It was their most rushing yards actually since in an SEC game since they that 2017 game at Arkansas. I believe that was like 52 to 20, something like that. It was their most rushing yards in an SEC game since then, and it really came out of nowhere, if I'm being honest. I mean, this is not a team that's run blocked very well all season. They've actually, at the beginning of the year against Penn State, Missouri in particular, they had like 30 more yards after contact between those two games than they did rushing yards, meaning they were starting from like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage every single time. Guys were getting into the backfield routinely. Tank Bigsby still had to break a bunch of tackles against Ole Miss.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot of offensive line, right? I mean, there's a lot of seniors, but it's a third senior. The starting senior medically retired. The other guy got hurt, so Council's the third guy. And there's a lot of seniors, but they don't have a lot of experience playing like as starts,
Yeah, and they're just, and none of them are very impressive. I mean, there are a lot of experience. Brandon Council's in his 7th year of college football. Do I think he's an upper half of the SEC center at the moment? Absolutely not. Brian Harsin said yesterday on the teleconference that left tackle Killian Zaire has been their most stable offensive lineman, and I don't think you talk to many people who think he's been all that good this season. And so it's just been really bad. It's been growing over the past few seasons. As you know, that's been something that's been a concern the last couple of years. Is that offensive line? Obviously, that's why Bo Nix had to run for his life all the time. But now it's seeping over into the run blocking as well, to where you have a guy like Tank Bigsby. Even Jarquez Hunter, I think, is one of the better running backs in the SEC.
I like Hunter too.
Neither of them have been able to get much of a head of steam, and Arkansas is not elite in that category, so maybe we'll continue to see them do that once again. But honestly, we just have no way of knowing. It's been such an inconsistent offensive line that has really held guys back, held guys like Bigsby and Ashford and Jarquez Hunter. It's held them back this season.
I can't imagine it's the same story with Dorian Gerald, except for Council transfer from Akron. And, I mean, you think you go into 2020, you think that's your final year, and you end up getting it back. And then you get injured in 2021. I think that's what happened. And then, you get the medical for that. So, but Dorian Gerald, he's in his 7th year also. So pretty wild. How do you think this one's going to play out, Nathan? We'll get you out with that.
Yeah, for me, it keeps going back to that Arkansas running game. And I was actually thinking I was listening to a podcast talking about Penn State and Ohio State today. And I was remembering that Penn State game and for Auburn. I thought, they really couldn't slow down Penn State at all in the second half on the ground. And then thinking about it, they really couldn't slow down Missouri in the second half on the ground. They couldn't slow down Georgia the entire game on the ground. They couldn't slow down Ole Miss. So I understand this game's at home. I do think this is going to be a close game. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Auburn won this game.
Jordan-Hare matters. That stadium matters. I mean,
absolutely.
There's been games where it didn't, Penn State obviously, but it matters.
Yes, it's affected them in a lot of games. They even had a close game against San Jose State where the Spartans had 4 false starts when they were going up against Auburn student section. So, that made a pretty big difference. But you just look at this run defense, and now you look at a team like Arkansas, that's all they want to do. I look at how healthy Arkansas is getting on defense. I don't think Arkansas is very good on defense, but they're going against a pretty subpar offense that can't really do much in terms of passing the ball. If I were Arkansas, I would load that box. I don't. You have to make Robbie Ashford beat you with his arm in this game. And really more than that, you should just make him drop back and pass. Even if he does complete some passes, the more times that he has the ball in his hands, he's just been so turnover prone. So just keep putting the ball in his hands. Keep making him be the one who has to beat you. Other than Tank Bigsby, those are a few advantages that I just keep coming back to and can't seem to convince myself that they will go Auburn's way. And so I think Arkansas will be able to dictate the pace of the game on offense. I think they'll play a little bit better on defense than they have the past few weeks because of the guys they're getting back. And then I have no reason to believe Auburn won't turn the ball over a couple times because that's what they've done all season. I'm picking Arkansas 41-31.
All right. That's Nathan King, everybody. Hey, Nathan, appreciate having you on, and I'll talk to you in a little bit. You'll be the host, and I'll get to be the guest.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Looking
All
forward
right,
to
man.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nathan. All right, everybody. That's Nathan King. Again, you can follow him at Nathan King 24/7. If you're an Auburn fan listening, you need to check out what Nathan King is bringing to the table. Where do we want to go? I hadn't really thought about where we're going next. A few of my opinions on the game. I've already said, I think that just from a perception standpoint, the way things look at Auburn, getting ready to blow things up versus Arkansas, and things can change in an instant. Everything's going good until suddenly it's not, and everybody turns on the coach and all that kind of stuff, and it gets nasty. But the perception for me right now is Arkansas is trending upwards, and Auburn is ready to blow things up. But they are still fighting. He's absolutely right on that. I went back and watched the Ole Miss game, the Auburn-Ole Miss game again. I've watched it twice now, and they still fight and they still battle. And there was they came back. And that's something that you don't usually see with a coach that, you kind of have the idea that they're on their way out. I go back to Brett Bielema, his last year when they played in Oxford, and I mean, it was getting ready to be a blowout, and Arkansas battled back, and that's because they wanted to fight for their head coach. That's not the perception that we see from the outside with Brian Harsin. We see a guy it's just a matter of time. I feel for guys like Nathan who have to cover Harsin because this dude doesn't say anything. He talks forever and just doesn't say anything. Like he was asked about the SI article about him not allowing players to redshirt, and he just said he's not familiar with that report. Didn't deny, just said I'm not familiar with the report. Very interesting fella, and I think just a really bad fit at Auburn. We talked about the 2020 game. I talked about last year's game, some of the things that we've seen in the past. I think Arkansas, when it comes down to it, Auburn has a big advantage playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium. That's a really underrated venue, in my opinion. 87,000 plus. I've been there several times. But Arkansas has a massive advantage at quarterback. And that's when I look at things, and I don't necessarily think everything's equal in this. I think Arkansas has some holes. Auburn has a lot of holes. But when I look at the quarterback situation, those are the things I look at when I'm like, all right, if everything is equal, where's the game being played and what's the quarterback situation? And to me, this is just a dramatic difference for Arkansas. Arkansas, you almost are like just, I don't want to say be conservative, but you're almost just like don't make any mistakes because Auburn's going to make mistakes. They're going to give you opportunities. They're going to give you opportunities. It can't be like Mississippi State. Now, they don't have the firepower Mississippi State has, but it can't be like Mississippi State where they throw you 4, really 3, I think, catchable interceptions and you drop every one of them. It can't be that. It's got to be make them pay with an interception or a fumble recovery and then go score a touchdown and make them pay, drive it home. Give them no chance. But they battled back against Ole Miss, and that was on the road in Oxford. And they've had a bye week to think about things. Got to get Rocket Sanders rolling. I kind of like the way things worked out, even though Rocket was kind of benched in the last game for putting the ball on the turf a couple times. But he only had 15 carries, but it's like 174 yards. He had that 64-yard run, maybe 177 yards. But to me, in that game, you established him early, then you didn't play him for a while, and DeBinion and Green, those guys did a lot of things in the middle of the game, and then you brought Rocket in, midway through the third quarter, and he was fresh and healthy. You heard what he said about Auburn's defensive line. They play like 5 defensive linemen, play like 3 linebackers. Keep pounding. Even if it's not getting you a whole bunch of yards, just keep going at those guys, soften them up, and then you get to the fourth quarter, and as Bobby Petrino used to say, it's the same linebacker, but it's a different running back, a fresh guy. Just a few thoughts. Scoring offense, Auburn is 22.3 points per game. Arkansas's defense 32.6. Both those stats are 13th in the SEC. Neither are good stats. Auburn's putting up 377 yards. That's 9th. Arkansas's defense 357.7. I just think, I don't know, if Auburn can get out of their own way, then they'll make this a game. But I don't believe that they can. We're going to get to your questions. Jordan Walsh named to the Julius Erving Award watch list, by the way. Nick Smith Jr. was listed by Eric Bossi as one of 10 highly touted freshmen who will need to produce in 2022-23. Just a couple of housekeeping things. I mentioned the Ricky Council thing. Ricky Council is one of 9 guys who could be a problem solver for Arkansas. They need somebody else to knock down 3-pointers besides Nick Smith. He's like the only guy. And Pinion, they feel like he can get on the court from a defensive standpoint. Then he can be a guy that can do it. But right now, shooting seems to be a real problem with this team. Now, an advantage of that is they can get to the free throw line. They can improve as a free throw shooting team, and they are very difficult. They're going to be so hard for teams to score against. So Curtis will be down in Austin for the Texas game. We'll have live updates rolling from that because he's there. It's not on TV or anything, but you get an 11 o'clock Auburn game, and you get a 3 o'clock Texas game in basketball. And Curtis will be there with live updates on HawgSports.com. He'll do a stand-up, I assume, right after the game and talk about what he saw, and that's always a really good watch. And you can watch that on Hog Hoops Live, the YouTube channel. Also on Facebook Live, it'll be right after the game, pretty close to after the game. But go find his YouTube channel. Just search Hog Hoops Live, Hog HAWG Hoops Live. It's a very similar setup to this show. Curtis does a great job. His basketball is, I can't even pretend. And then Arkansas opens the season, so you get over a week off, 9 days? And you got North Dakota State, 7 o'clock, Bud Walton Arena. That's SEC Network Plus. It's the plus. It's not the alternate. It means it's streaming only. Then Fordham on November 11th, South Dakota State November 16th. Then it's the Maui Invitational. Actually get a nice little break November 16th and November 21st where they face Louisville in the Maui. Nice little break. Go check out our friends at OzarksGo. OzarksGo.net/hog, HAWG. Check them out. If your internet isn't perfect, then you're doing something wrong. This is 2022. Okay, you shouldn't be having internet issues if you're paying for internet. It's way too expensive to be paying for crappy internet. These guys give you a great price. They give you great speed, 2 different options for speed. They're not going to jack your price up in year 2. I couldn't be more happy. We moved like 16 months ago. Good time to move. I saw interest rates are up to 7%. It's a great time to sign up at OzarksGo. Okay, if you're disappointed with your internet, if you keep looking at your bill and like, wow, why does my bill keep going up? The last people I was with, they just kept adding like $6. I was with them for a long time, and I looked at my bill, and I'm thinking about where I started. I was like, man, I'm paying like double now. These guys do a great job. The internet never goes out here. I don't have some special internet guy I have to call. I haven't talked to these people aside from setting up this deal. Go to OzarksGo.net/hog, HAWG. You can also reach them at 479-684-4900. What else can you say? It just works. Like, if you don't want to think about your internet and just have it work, then you need OzarksGo. Trey Biddy stamp of approval. Let's check out a few questions. Just a few. Only the good ones. Anybody questioning morals here? Why does this game feel so huge for us? Adrian Lim says, I think we talked about that because of the perception of where Arkansas's program is right now versus where Auburn's program is. And obviously you're trying to get bowl eligible. Auburn always gets help. It feels like it. Man, it always feels like it, doesn't it? It's been 6 years since they've beaten these guys, including 2020, which is a bunch of crap. And everybody knows it. But 10 years from now, nobody aside from Arkansas fans will talk about it. That's the thing that kind of sucks about it. You just get the L. Dalton Adams thinks there's a genuine chance that Arkansas can blow them out. If Auburn turns the ball over and stuff the way they have and makes the poor decisions, yes. If Arkansas, keeps it pretty clean, yeah, they can. They absolutely can blow them out. Kirby Smith says, I expect to see more 4-man front on defense. Ole Miss ran a lot of 3-man front against them. Now, they did score a lot of points. I think they scored 34 points. I think 35 points wins the game. That's what you predict, 35-17. Michael Polk says, we win big if we stick to the run and make them load the box. Then you throw over their heads. I think it's interesting, Michael, like up until the BYU game, up until after the BYU game, everybody's like, just run the ball. And now after KJ throws for 5 touchdowns, you think they're going to open it up? You think they're going to keep it open? Throw the ball down the field? But yeah, I agree. Run the ball. Limit mistakes. Do not turn the ball over. That's what it'll cost Arkansas in this one. If they turn the ball over, if they match Auburn or something and turnovers or something, yeah, they'll be in real danger of losing the game. You cannot turn the ball over on the road. You can't get off to a poor start. And I'll also say the energy, and I don't know if it was 11 o'clock or what, but the energy from Arkansas's defense against Mississippi State, the last 11 o'clock game in the SEC, was poor. It wasn't good. You got to have more fire. You got to have more energy. Go back and look at the Texas A&M game, the energy on defense, especially in the first half, versus what happened at Mississippi State. Totally different. Jason Jones says, Jason Jaybird Jones says, line up and stop the run, make the quarterback beat you with his arm, and Arkansas gets a big win. I think you got to pressure the guy, but also I think you got to like show pressure and just drop 8. I think you got to do both. Obviously, you're not going to just blitz every down. It's a gamble every time you do it. But to me, this guy makes really poor decisions when he's under duress. He's not one of those guys, and he'll make some plays when he's under duress too. He'll pick up some yardage, obviously, but for the most part, I feel like he makes mistakes throwing the ball under duress. Let's see. We win big, we stick with the run. We read that. My thing jumped. This seems to be a game for Arkansas to get back to forcing turnovers. We need to turn them into points. I mean, they're going to give you opportunities. The question is, can Arkansas capitalize on them? I think it's time for Arkansas to get back to the quarterback, though. Get Drew Sanders going again. Get Jordan Dominic going again. It feels like those guys have been stuck at 6.5 and 4.5 sacks. They're still 1 and 3 in the SEC. They've just been stuck there. Dustin Hoofman says, Trey, what are your thoughts on DeBinion receiving out of the backfield? Love to see him get the ball in space. I mean, he had what? How many? Did he have 40 receiving yards in the last game? Yeah, keep doing it. I mean, everybody knows I'm a big Dominic Johnson fan. I think Dominic Johnson is being underutilized. At the same time, I like what AJ's doing. I like what DeBinion's doing. And I also understand they bring a little bit different change of pace. But I also know that Arkansas could produce better at the goal line, I think, and maybe Dominic's is the guy down there. Although when he was down there one time, he didn't get in, but he only got one chance. Jeremy McCullum says, do you think KJ stays another year or do you think he goes pro? I mean, if he plays like he did against BYU, then he goes pro. KJ has been really strong on the road also. So his efficiency rating at home is like 167. His efficiency rating on the road is like 162. This is Curtis. Curtis broke this down. So at home, KJ in his career is 181 of 284 passing. That's 63.7% for 2,868 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Here's his road numbers. 127 of 190. That's 66.8%, so a better completion percentage. For 1,605 yards, I'm pretty sure that's fewer yards per completion, though. 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's his road numbers. The worst place he's been is a neutral, and he's still been good. 4 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 41 yards, 62.3%, 33 of 53. So he's been pretty solid on the road. That needs to continue, no doubt. Okay. I feel like we did it. One more time. Subscribe to the page on YouTube. Take a moment right now. You're watching on YouTube. Just subscribe. Hit the notifications bell so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you about all the other ways to watch and listen. Just on our YouTube channel. We're almost at 15,000 subscribers. I'd love to get there. I love milestones. I love goals. So, yeah, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications bell so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Comment. Share it with your papaw. Your papaw doesn't know how to get on YouTube. Help him out. Look, papaw. I'll bookmark this for you. All you got to do, show him what to do. Show him how to get there. He's a big Razorback fan. He doesn't know about the show. He's scared of technology. Show him. Help him out. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to Nathan King for hopping on with us. I'm going to join Nathan on his podcast here in a little bit. And thanks to Curtis Wilkerson, as always, and safe travels as you go down to as you go down to Austin, not Auburn. And anybody going to Auburn or Austin, safe travels to you as well. All right, everybody. We'll be back with you on Saturday afternoon with the walk and talk. Be somewhere around here because, damn it, I'm not going to Auburn, sit in that terrible press box. All right, everybody, we'll catch you on Saturday. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and I just said I'll catch you, so I'll catch you next time.